20 plus seasons into Apex Legends, and it has never been more brutal than right now to be someone who is looking to take their game to the next level. If you find yourself hopeless and it feels like there's nothing you can do, well, you are in luck, as I've compressed my 5,000 hours of in-game experience into just a few minutes to give you the most critical and need to know things to improve, such as how your in-game performance can be determined before you even leave the dropship. One of the biggest throws anyone can do is to have a poor drop. Seconds matter, and if you can't drop at that optimal angle and the distance from your landing spot, which is around 500 to 600 meters, then you are definitely going to be seconds behind contesting teams. You absolutely have to be hyper focused during your drop, looking around and pinging exactly where you want to land so you aren't sharing a loot path with your squad members. Movement is king in Apex Legends. This is simply not true. It can be polarizing and extremely attractive to be some sort of Twitch streaming movement god, but doing all this crazy tap strafing, super gliding, mantle jumping does absolutely nothing if you can't shoot your weapon. I used to spend dozens of hours trying to perfect various movement tech, but this was a massive mistake. Replacing this with gun skill practice in the range or mixtape would have been way more valuable to seeing improvement that actually matters and ends up with results. Yes, you can work on your movement, but don't make it the priority. You aren't going to win a gunfight by dancing in circles around an enemy if you can't hit your shots. The most actionable movement that you can do that actually does make a big difference is going to be stowing your weapons to close gaps faster, even if it's just for a second to get that quick speed boost. Cutting corners and saving fractions of a second matter when weapons can elim players in under a second. However, also note that nothing in Apex lives in isolated or linear experiences. There's also ways to get better gunplay without even worrying about your specific weaponry. This comes down to the legends you main. Did you know if you pick a main character, your in-game performance will be better, and in turn, you'll have more success in your gunfights? Why or how is this? Well, it's because when you are comfortable with a character and you understand all of its ins and outs and that playstyle, you can better play the game in not just a basic level of knowing the legend, but also in ways that help you get better at gunfights. If you don't know who to play, I absolutely recommend not picking one main, but trying for 3 main legends, preferably in varying playstyles, as this will make you more flexible depending on the team comp you want to run, and varying your in-game experiences will also make you a better overall player. Since you clearly beat out the enemy with your superior drop, the ring's impact on the entire game cannot be understated. Literally, the entire match can be figured out, and those with more experience and game knowledge will immediately get the edge over other teams. The ring determines so much more than a new player will know. The obvious is where you're going to have to move, but the not so clear thing is the ring's effect on other teams, where they're going to rotate, where gunfights will happen, and the big one, with a little smart intel, you can figure out where the game is going to end specifically from the very first or second ring that does pop up. If you are slower on the drop, later rotating, or landing in a hot area, you more than likely will end up getting gunfights, and specifically more third parties. Something I have more recently been reflecting on is that the fastest eliminating weapons are not necessarily the best. Time to kill is just a singular aspect of the game, and this is very evident or understandable with how the R99 is right now. Larger mag weapons, more range, or easier to use weapons can oftentimes perform better due to a number of benefits you get, like reliability or the capability to do more damage without reloading. If you have put any sort of meaningful time into Apex Legends, you absolutely know that Apex Legends is a live and die by the third party type game, and if you have weapons that can better handle third parties, such as those weapons with more damage per mag, you can often keep enemies at bay, more so than the weapons that aren't as capable against multiple enemies. At a basic level, always remember to look for third parties immediately after finishing a fight. Armor swap, then you gotta look around right away, heal up, look around again, make sure it's safe, and then loot up those death boxes. Saying to get better gun skill is easy. How to actually get there is much more difficult. If you are newer or you are trying to improve, you have ground to make up, but this isn't an impossible task. If you want to go from bot to pro, you 1000% need to utilize the mixtape playlist. You won't get as much battle royale experience, but the big reason mixtape in the firing range works is because you can actually get dozens to 100 times more gunfights an hour than if you do play the BR. It's a simple math game. More time spent shooting, the more you learn, the better you become. Utilizing mixtape is the difference between a gold Andy and a master's level player. Speaking of ranked, and after you get a basic level of gun skill down, you need to try and push yourself even further, and one of the only ways to do this is to play against better players and those who are at a similar skill level. Ranked is the ideal way to do this. Pub games are going to help you get the feel for countering third parties, as pubs are way more random than ranked is in terms of what happens. happens, but ranked is where you will be able to get more level-headed fights, letting you think more strategically about rotations and how you are going to get that win. One of the small things that can make a big impact in your ranked games is going to be an item that many newer or less experienced players forget to utilize, and these are grenades. If I had to boil Apex down to some percentages, I would say Apex is a 65% gun game, 25% legends and movement, and then 10% grenade game. It may only be 10%, but when at the upper skill level of the player base, any sort of percentage, even 1%, makes a huge difference. Hence me giving grenades a 10% factor will hopefully stress how big of a deal they actually are. Here's one strategy you need to utilize for each grenade. Arc stars are massive in terms of getting enemies immediately out of commission. Opening with a stick on a player can net instant wins. Frag grenades, you need to know how to vert or skynade enemies. This basically lets a frag explode right in someone's face without them having any indicator. Thermites are less of an impact type of grenade, but the ability to slow enemies' movement down to get heals off or have a little zone control can be a pretty big deal. Not to mention the ticks of damage they do is very nice to track enemies through walls. You honestly should always strive to carry at least one grenade, but what you prioritize carrying absolutely has an impact on your game. For one, stop picking up garbage. I recently mentioned this in another video, but picking up trash you won't use or at least non-relevant ammo is a huge waste of time to open your inventory and drop things all match long. Taking it one step further, here's what I deem to be the best bag layouts at every rarity. Notice how I always prioritize one grenade at minimum, even if I don't have a bag. Second big thing is to not take a dumb amount of ammo. Thirdly, white meds or health heals are not as important as shields because your shields are the first thing to get tapped out in every fight. Carrying more batteries will allow you to play the game and not be forced to rat in a corner or a building because you did run out of shields. When it comes to improvement in actually playing Apex, there are very little to no scenarios where you should be playing solo. The only time you want to play solo is when playing no-fill lobbies to better learn how to take 1v2 or 1v3s, but I don't suggest doing this unless you have a baseline skill and are trying to push yourself further. Probably someone who has around a 1.5 to 2 KD or higher. Otherwise, you should be utilizing creator communities, my Discord, Apex main Discord, or your favorite streamers and YouTubers. Most of us have Discords and communities where you can find others to play with, and you already have something in common with them. You are a part of that community. By doing this, you can build a consistent team, and your performance and improvement is going to be 1,000 times better in the long run than if you are just queuing up solo with randoms. Possibly the worst thing you can do in Apex is to 50-50 off the drop. You gotta stop doing this. This is a huge throw every time, and it might be the reason why you are losing more matches than not. This doesn't mean to try and not hot drop, but if you are landing on a loot pill with another person, you literally are just flipping a coin to see who is gonna get the gun in that box. Maybe they have better ping, maybe you do. Either way, if you want to land hot, you need to land on floor loot, not loot pills. This takes some of the RNG aspect out of the game, as you can see what you're landing on and redirect if you are landing somewhere where there is no good loot. It might be only a second, and it might not be a big distance you can redirect, but this does matter. This way you don't need to wait for that split second to wait for a loot bin to open before moving on. Again, seconds matter. If you feel like you are endlessly losing gunfights, here's the biggest reason why it might be happening. Overpeaking and overextending is the death of all inexperienced players, and it drives me crazy to watch. You need to check your ego and always try to fight enemies with efficient and smart side peeking. Being able to pop out, send shots down range, and then conceal yourself and then pop out at a different side or at a different angle is the way to go. This can also be both peeking from the sides or even head glitching from the top of an object. Don't try to challenge someone in a one-on-one in the open with no cover. This isn't playing intelligently. If you are still here, drop a smiley emoji down below to let me know you are a real one. Check out this video if you want more ways to improve your skills in Apex, and until next time, happy gaming, legends.